Hello my love and namaste, welcome to Desi Doll Diaries. I'm Sheetal and today I am on a mission to bring you the quickest wrap up video that I can, simply because I want to get this wrap up done before I leave for the school rush, which gives me around 20 minutes, which sounds like a lot, but we all know that I can talk quite a bit. Also, in June I read 9 books. So I think officially I can actually change my, reading goals. I'm going to review this in another video, but I basically started the year off with easing myself back into reading, and I gave myself, I think it was a goal of, was it 4 books a month? Or was it even 2? And I thought that was 2. I can't even remember. I remember thinking 1 fiction, 1 non-fiction, and I can't remember. But anyway, I have consistently read a minimum of 7 books for the last 3 months, so April, May and June. And so I think I can happily increase my reading goals, if that makes sense. Because the first month I did it, I thought great, and I wasn't sure if it was a fluke. And when I did it in May, obviously it gave me a bit more motivation, but I did think in June, I thought it'd go one of 2 ways, because June was my birthday month, which I haven't stopped going on about. But as much as I thought to myself that I'll romanticize the month, I also realized that there were so many things that I wanted to fit in that I didn't know if I'd be able to read as much as I wanted to. However, the fact that I did 9, I'm going to say 9/10 books, because 1 book I finished in June. However, I think I started it possibly back in April. But anyway, for someone that wants to be quick about this, I'm going on quite an awful bit. I just want to start off by saying that if I mention any books that you are interested in reading, then please check the content/trigger warnings of each book. And also, because I am rushing through this, first of all, I apologize for it, but second of all, if you're someone like me that likes to have visuals and hard copies of books to look at whilst looking at wrap-up videos or TBRs, then I'm very sorry, that's not going to happen in this video because I'm rushing through, so I just don't have the books with me. And anyway, these are a mixture of ebooks, hard copies and audiobooks as well. So I'll start off with the book, The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. This is the one that I started, I believe, in April, and I eventually finished it in June. I will say that makes it sound like it was a bit of a drag. It wasn't a drag of a book, it was just one that I did enjoy it, but it was one that I enjoyed in small chunks up until a certain point where I realized that I really just want to get it read because it was lingering on a bit. So in this book, we join Alan, who, whilst everyone in his care home that he lives in is planning his birthday party, his 100th birthday party, he decides to climb out of the window because he just isn't interested in being there, and he decides to embark on a journey which turns into this huge, witty adventure. And I didn't know what to expect from this book, but it had me in stitches. I will say it's quite dark humor and very tongue-in-cheek, so please go in thinking this, because I think there are some people that may see a lot of what happens, a lot of the plot twists and just what happens along the way as being very convenient, and it's meant to be. It's just that kind of a story. What I didn't really enjoy too much, and this is definitely a personal thing, there's politics in there, and there's a lot of politics. Without the politics, there isn't really any story, so it needs to be there. And initially it wasn't an issue for me because we've got this kind of a dual timeline thing with the present day, and then we're kind of living through, we're going over the historical events of Alan's life. So there is a lot of politics, and I think it's the politics that in the end got to me, and I just thought I need to get through this book. I need to finish it. I want to know what happens. I loved the characters in the book, so I needed to know what was going to happen to them. I just realized I haven't yet rated it. I think I'm between a 3 and a 3.5. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend it. And I'm just going to say, if you don't like politics at all, then probably don't read it or give it a go. Actually, no, still give it a go, because I'm not interested in politics whatsoever. But I still enjoyed the book. Saying that, I did recommend it to one of my book besties, and she thought it was okay, but she got bored of the politics, and I believe it was a DNF for her. So take from that information what you will. I enjoyed it. I liked Alan. I liked his story. I liked his just the fact that he was so blasé. There was just something about Alan where he was very smart and childlike, and I really liked reading about him and his adventures. So I'll say a 3, because as much as I enjoyed it, I am definitely in no rush to read there's a sequel to it. I think it's just Further Adventures of the 100-Year-Old Man. That's not the full title. I don't know what the full title is, but I'm not in a rush to read it. I don't think I can do that to myself. However, the author, Jonasson, I really enjoyed his storytelling, his building of characters, and the humor, as I've mentioned several times. So I'll look into other books of his, and as long as there's nothing political around it, then I would definitely be interested in reading more of his books. So that was the first book. I finally got around to reading Just Saying, which is Malorie Blackman's memoir. I enjoyed reading it. It definitely is an inspiring and motivating read. I'm trying to avoid using all these power words and stuff, because I don't know, I feel like it just takes away from more of a genuine review, if that makes... I mean, this is a genuine review. I just don't want it to sound like I'm trying to sell the book, because I'm not. It was very educating and eye-opening for me, learning about the way she and her family were treated, but especially the way she was treated just growing up as a British black woman. It was just heartbreaking. To be honest, it's not like I expected any less, but at the same time, it just goes to show how much I still don't know. And I guess that's the whole reason why it's so important that we continue to educate ourselves. I just really appreciated her story and her sharing it with us. You most definitely will need to check for trigger warnings in this book. I admire her courage to be able to put what she's been through into words and to share it with everyone. I haven't yet read any of Malorie Blackman's works of fiction other than this memoir that I've now read. I have wanted to, and after reading this book, I most definitely am going to. I find rating these kind of books a bit difficult, because within my ratings, I do like to put in the entertainment factor, and it's very harsh trying to judge whether the way someone's put their life story is entertaining or not. That's definitely not how I'm rating this. This is more the way it was presented. She's a great storyteller. I was engaged, and I just appreciate and really admire the way she shared her story. So I rated it a 3.5 stars. I also read A Court of Wings and Ruin and A Court of Frost and Starlight. I absolutely loved A Court of Wings and Ruin. So it is book 3 of the ACOTAR series. And in this book, I feel really... If you've been watching my videos a while, you'll understand that when it comes to reviewing a series, I find it a bit difficult, because I don't want to mention characters, because it could potentially give away what's happened in previous books. How do I go about this? I think what I'll say is, in this third book, we go more into battle. We focus on the battle and the story building and the plot. Whereas with book 2, we were focusing on character building and the world building, and we were going into... I mean, the plot was still developing, but it was like a nice simmer. Whereas with book 3, it was just right there, full blown, in your face. And yeah, I really loved it. I will say book 2, A Court of Mist and Fury, was definitely still my favourite of all the books I've read so far. But book 3 is definitely my second favourite. I've rated it a 4.75 stars, but I may change that to a 5, because I'm just trying to think of why I've not given it a full 5. I can still love both the third and fourth and just have one that I love more than the other, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't mean both can't be 5 stars, so I might re-review that. At the moment, I can't think of why I've taken that 0.25 stars away. But anyway, book 4 or book 3.5, it's more of a novella. So it's the next book, but it's a smaller one. Some people are calling it book 4, some people are calling it 3.5. Either way, A Court of Frost and Starlight is a very sweet little, for me, winter's tale is the best way I can describe it. It's set around the winter solstice, so around Christmas time, and it does give all those nice, warm, fuzzy feels. We focus a lot more on the characters again, and yeah, I think it's a nice break at the right time. If you want to stick within that whole ACOTAR universe, but you do need a break, which I definitely did, and I think most people probably would after the mammoth of a book that the third book was. So it was a really nice, sweet story. Again, I'm not going to go into it with who's in it and the characters. I think what I'll do is after I've read the 5th book, I will most likely do an ACOTAR dedicated video in which I will tell you at what points you can skip to not hear any spoilers. And that's if you haven't read it, you might have already read it. In which case, let me know which is your favourite. And please no spoilers for me either. So, A Court of Frost and Starlight. It is, I believe it's a book that can be added in, or you don't necessarily have to read it to follow the rest of the story. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I think it's more of an add-on rather than a part of the whole ACOTAR universe, and I gave it a 3.5 stars. My next read for June was Malibu Rising. It is the 2nd book that I've read of Taylor Jenkins Reid, and she is very quickly becoming one of my favourite authors. I don't know if I can say that just after reading 2 of her books, but her way of writing is just so addictive. It's like watching a movie. That's just how she writes the characters, and she writes, it's like she's written a script in story form. I am the kind of reader who appreciates a bit of comedy, and the way she adds humour into her writing, she does it in a very classy way, and I think all of those things together really just make me appreciate her writing. I also love the fact that she mentions Carrie Soto in this book, because I was planning on reading Carrie Soto Is Back next. So the fact that she's made a guest appearance just makes me want to read that next one even more. The story itself is set in Malibu, so think the beach scene, we've got nepotism, we've got somewhat of a dual timeline, and all the drama and glamour that you would associate with that, but done in a way, I don't really like drama, but this is done in a way where it's not too superficial. I gave it a 4.5 stars, and I would definitely recommend it as a summer read. Speaking of summer reads, in June I also read 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. That book just gave me such cozy romantic summer vibes. I liked the representation of mental health issues in this book. Definitely again check for content warnings and trigger warnings. There are quite a few in here. In some parts, or maybe it was just the one part, I felt the wording didn't really match the character's age. I've just realised I don't know if I've summarised any of these books. I'm sorry if I haven't, and I've just looked at the time as well, so I'm not going to get a chance to now. I am going to be doing a mid-year wrap-up, and I will most definitely go into detail for all of these books, so I'm sorry if you feel you have to wait that long. With this book, sorry, I'm looking at the time, I do need to leave. Let's see. I enjoyed the book. By day 6, I felt like I knew what direction the story was heading in, and then by day 7, I was kind of over it, and I just wanted it to just be done with. But I did enjoy the book, so I don't know. I think I'll give it a 3.75. I'm sorry, I will have to continue with this review in the car once I've actually parked up.
Okay, so I've parked up. I am still so extremely conscious about filming in public. So despite being in the car, I am hot because I've got the windows closed because I don't want anyone else to be able to hear me, which I know is something I'll have to get over, but I'm not over it just yet. So I'm hot, and And I'm still on a time constraint because very soon there will be other school parents that are walking up to do the school pickup. So I'm going to be very, very quick. I'm just trying to see where we were up to. So did I finish? I was up to 7 days in June. The next book was our June book for our book club, which was Days at the Morasaki Bookshop. This book, when I saw the cover and just, I think even the title and hearing about it, I would just imagine it to be this really cozy, whimsical, magical story based within a bookshop, and it was none of that. It was nothing like what I was expecting, and it was nothing like my book club besties were expecting either. So it's not, I would have to say, it's not a personal thing. The story was set in a bookshop, but there wasn't much about the bookshop itself. I think I'm a bit dumbfounded. Look, I get everyone has their own taste. I was just a bit dumbfounded as to how this book was a bestseller. I just don't understand it. It was a very big letdown for me. The characters were all just very basic level. It was a short book, but just because it's a short book, I don't believe that it has to be I don't want to say a bad book. I don't feel comfortable calling any book a bad book. But this book was just not for me. I am most definitely not interested in reading more Days at the Morasaki Bookshop. It just lacked flavor for me. That's what it was. Like, was there a plot? I know what was happening, but it was just, there was no oomph to it. There was no, the characters were flat, the storyline was flat. Yes, there was a bit of backstory and emotion there, but not to the point where I cared, which is really sad because I was really, really hoping and for so much more from this book. The title itself inspired a completely different story within my head. And if I ever get down to writing that story, then I guess I should be very, very grateful for this book. I'm not saying that anyone will enjoy that story either, but look, I'm just going to leave it at that. I was expecting more from the bookshop itself, from more to happen in the bookshop. I guess it was a huge miscommunication thing between me and the book itself, and I'll leave it at that. What did I give it? I gave it a 2.5 stars. It was just very underwhelming. Was there a character? I don't think there was I didn't like or dislike the characters. They were just so meh to me. So yeah, that was that. And then finally, I started The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I heard so much about this series. I was told it is one that's very quick to read, easy to get into, and that's definitely what I found. So I don't know how many books are in this. I thought there were 4 books within this series. I watched one of Tasha's videos. I will see if I can work out how to link it, and I'll link it somewhere. But in her video, she said it was a trilogy. I have now got book 4. I haven't started it, but the way the 3rd book ended, it could very well be a trilogy with the 4th one. So let me just say, the first book is called The Inheritance Games, the second book is The Hawthorne Legacy, and the third is The Final Gambit, which all 3 I read in June because yes, they are that easy to read and that quick to read and to get into. And then the 4th book is The Brothers Hawthorne, and I don't know, maybe that is individual stories following the brothers before the whole Inheritance Games, or I'm not too sure. And I believe there is a not final, I don't know the final, a 5th book coming out this year. I don't know, I can't remember what it's called. The Greatest Gamble, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, the first book, I can't even remember our main female character's name. What was the name? I remember her sister's name, and I remember the Hawthorne brothers' names. I just don't remember our main character's name, which is really strange because her name it's not a big deal, but it is quite a big deal in the book. and it's really going to bug me. But anyway, this girl she's in high school, she inherits a large sum of a billionaire's inheritance. Despite him having family and 4 grandsons, she gets the majority of it. And we have absolutely... I'm sorry, I'm so hot. You can probably see the sun on my face and I'm melting. I think I need to open this window, and then if someone's going to judge me, then so be it. I've decided to make this... I'm making these videos for a reason, to hopefully help you. And so I shouldn't be ashamed of it or embarrassed or anything else. So I've opened the windows a bit. I don't know if that's going to make any difference because it's so hot and the sun is beating right on me. But the inheritance games is still bugging me. But our girl here inherits the lump sum, a huge estate, and a whole huge amount of money from a billionaire who has family, who has these 4 grandsons, and nobody knows why. And we're trying to find out why. I was hooked instantly. There were no lulls. I wanted to know what was happening. The mystery was just really fun and fast. It's YA. There was a little bit of romance, but I didn't get the attraction at first, if that makes... I didn't feel it. I got it, I just didn't feel it, if that makes sense. But it didn't take away from it, and it was a small thing. I mean, it got there eventually. But overall, I really loved the first book, which I've given it a 4 stars. And then, because I enjoyed that so much, I read the Hawthorne Legacy and the Final Gambit. I read them back to back so quick. I can't tell you, I can't give them individual ratings or even a review because it's a bit of a muddle for me. And it was a little while away. But I will say I really, really enjoyed them. I think with the Final Gambit, near the ending, it was good. I don't think it was great the way it was tied up. But then we've got this 4th book. And like I said, I haven't read it. I haven't read what it's about. So I can't give you too much information. But we'll get to it and we'll see where we're going. One of my mum friends has just driven past and I think she's parked up. So even though she knows I make these videos, I'm still, like I said, very self-conscious. So I think I'm going to wrap up there. Let me just double check that I did go through all the books first. Oh, I'm hot. I'm not complaining because our summer started off very autumnal. So I am very, very grateful we finally got some sunshine rather than thunderstorms. But I'm just saying I'm hot. So we've gone through Just Saying, My Life in Words, Malibu Rising, Days at the Morasaki Bookshop, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, The Inheritance Games, The Hawthorne Legacy, The Final Gambit, 7 Days in June, and The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. So we've been through all of those. Those are all the books that I read in June. Was I going to do a July TBR? I was absolutely. Am I going to do it right now? No.